Hi, and welcome to our set of tutorials about typography. And in this set of tutorials, I'm going to teach you about typography by creating a magazine cover. To start out with, you're going to need a super large image for your cover, or if you intend on making some type of collage or montage, you're going to have to use really large images. We want this image size to be 8.5 by 11, so the same size that an actual magazine cover would be. And then the resolution we want to be 300 ppi. So you're going to have to have a super large image over 8 megapixel size image. So I think the newest iPhones are 8 megapixel, but you need to have a camera with at least 8 megapixels if you're going to create your own image, or you need to find images that large on the internet. I would highly recommend you using something like Stock Exchange for getting large size images. So once we have our image here, what we need to do is look at the image size, and we can see here that in pixels our image size, our width and height, is 2550 by 3300. So depending on how you like to work in Photoshop, you can use inches or pixels for your dimensions. I like to use pixels because I just like the increments better. It's easier to do the math than to try to do it with inches, quarter inches, so on and so forth. So looking at these increments here, we're going to then decide how much we're going to add negative space around our text and where we're going to create some margins. So the first thing that we're going to do is create margins. And the only way to do that is to turn on the rulers. So if you don't have the rulers on already, you need to go to View and then Show Rulers, or Control R or Command R. And once you have that on, then you can start making the rulers here. So I'm going to make these my white space here. I'm going to make it in 60 pixel increments here. So I'm going to grab from the right side, or of the left side, I'm sorry, of the ruler, and I'm going to drag my pixels over. Now if you have CS6, you'll see here now it's going to show us where the guide is going to be placed. It shows us that it's going to be at 60 pixels. So I'm going to put one there at 60 pixels. And then if my whole image here is 2550 wide, then I subtract 60 from 2550 to get where I'm going to put the other one, which is 2490. So I'm going to put this one at 2490, or as close as I can get to it. And it might not be exactly at that. Oh, there it was, 2490. And then I'm going to drag down 60. Looks like 60.1 is the closest I'm going to get. And then 3300 is the height. So subtract 60 from 3300, and we get what? 3240. Okay, so that is where I absolutely do not want any text or content going in there. Okay, so to start off with that, and then we're going to create some type around there and figure out where we're going to want our type to be. So the other increment I think that I want to deal with as well is how wide I want a column of text to be. And you don't have to do this, and a lot of times you'll see magazines where it's actually justified, so you can't really do that. But in my particular design, I want to have kind of a gutter, an area here where I'm going to put the text, and I'm going to make that 600 pixels wide. So if I had this one here at 2490, I'm going to subtract 600 pixels from that, which is going to give me 1890. So let's drag one here to 1890. And this is where I'm going to limit my text to. And you're going to see by doing this is going to make our lives a lot easier when we start creating text, because we're going to create something that's called a text box. So 1890, it's not going to let me get it. It's close enough. And so I'm going to keep most of my text in here when I create a column of text. Okay, So the next thing that I'm going to have to do is decide what kind of font I want to use. And in order to do that, there's a couple ways I can do that. I can go to a website and look at fonts. And I think one of the best websites to look for fonts would be Fonts. So if you go here to Font Squirrel, you can see all kinds of different fonts here that you might want to use. And most of them are free, but the ones that say offsite, most of the time they're going to charge you for it. So if you click on one of the ones that say offsite, most likely you're going to be charged for it. But if it says download, then you can get the font for free off the website. So you can do that, or you can do what I'm going to show you. So yeah, see, look, 32 bucks. Well, looks like here's a free one. So this is Pro Lite here. So part of it's free, and there might be a free part on some of it, depending on which one you find. Now it's different on Mac or PC how you install fonts, so you need to check. And maybe I'll put some links on the website to show you how to install fonts on Mac and PC. Okay, so back to our project here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create some text across the top here. And my magazine is going to be called, well, actually I'll show you a picture of it here. Here's the finished one. Underwater photo. So here's a gutter that I created, my 600 gutter here. And here's my 60 on either side here. And there's 60 here and 60 down here, 60 on top. So from here, I'm going to start putting the text. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to create some text boxes here. So I'm going to get my text tool, and I want to make sure I have the horizontal text tool here, horizontal type tool. And then I'm going to go here to my guides here, and I'm going to draw a box inside the guides. Okay, so I can resize this box later if I need to, but let's make it at least down to the diver's head here, and then I can start typing in my text in here. It doesn't really matter what I start with unless I know what the font is that I'm going to use. But we'll go ahead and type photo here, and then we also have to get a color here as well. Okay, so right now it's yellow. What I typed in here is yellow, and it fits inside the box fine. So let's go ahead first and look at changing the size. So let's get the size bigger. I'm going to highlight the text because I want to change all of it. And right up here we see these two T's here. I'm going to click and drag. I'm just going to drag until I get it the size that I want. And I want it to be all the way out to the edge of the box. Okay, so there it is there. And if I click the check box, it'll commit the changes. And you can see those changes are here. Wow, I like that yellow better. And there's a layer here that says photo. Okay, well you can see my text is not all the way to the edge here. So if I want to move that, I get the move tool. So hit V, and I'm just going to nudge it with the arrow keys till I get it right there on my guide. And it looks like I might have to even move it up a little. So that's just that I didn't click the arrow like right in the corner, and that's okay. It's easy to do. So the next thing I want to show you how to do is, once we have the text in a text layer here, if I double click the T, I'm going to select all the text. Okay, so then I can play with it. Now if I want to look at different fonts that are on my computer, all I have to do is highlight the text, the font name up here. And then I can use my up and down arrow keys to see what the fonts look like. So I can scroll through here until I get a font that I may like. And these are, I'm not being able to see a lot of these because they're bigger than the box. So I might want to make the box, well, actually, you know what? I do want to do that because I want them to fit in there, that size. So I'm not going to go through all these with you. I'm going to go and get the one that I liked, that I found. But you can see this is how you scroll through here. Okay, so the font that I selected is called Consolas, I think. Yeah, Consolas is the font that I connected here. And it looks like my text box is too small. I'm going to open this up a little bit. And this is going to help me to be able to fit everything in here, and I might have to adjust this later. And I actually wanted the text to be thicker, so I think I actually made it bold. Maybe not. I think I made the text bigger is what I did. So let's make the text a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to show you something that we can do as well. Okay, so that's about the size I want it there. But now you can see it's still moving off the edge here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the tracking. So if you don't have your character panel up here, I already had it up by default, but you can go to Window and then go to Character. Or you can just click this button right here if you're on the text, and it'll open it for you. So in addition to what's up here, we have some other things that we can select here as well. So what I want to do is I want the spacing to be closer together. So I'm going to set what's called the tracking. And I'm just going to drag this till I get it where I want it. That's probably too much. -20, looks like -40 is going to be perfect for me. Okay. The other thing that I want to do is I want to set the height of the font as well, because it's too tall. I want it to be a little bit shorter, because I want the O's to be a little rounder. So let's move this. And I think I might have got it down to like 80% here, 81%. Looks pretty good. And then if I want to see the changes, I click the checkbox up here, and I can see the changes here. So now it looks like I'm going to have to move this up a little bit. And to move it, I just have to get the Move tool again. So hit V if I don't already have it selected, and then I can just use my arrow keys if I'm on the text here to nudge it up to the top, or to where I have my guide. And then I'm just going to center it in between the guides because it's not exactly where I want it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the color a little bit. So again, I need to make sure that all the text is selected. I double click the T here, and I'm going to click on the color box here, or I can do it up here, either way, whichever way it works for you. And I'm going to, I can use the color picker here, but I can also look up here and use swatches, because I'm going to choose a red up here. And I'm going to make that color red here. Diving flags are red and white, so I'm going to make, something that kind of looks like that. So that's my main text there, and that's how I got that there. Now the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to make some text that goes vertical this way here, and there's a couple different ways I can do that. If I want to, I'm going to go ahead and check this box here. There's a couple other options that you saw here that we didn't actually play with here, and we'll use those when we start playing around with some other parts of the text here. So I wanted underwater to go right underneath in here, and so there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple different ways that I can do that. But what I'm going to do, rather than create some guides here, is I'm going to get the text, and I'm going to show you. You can use a vertical type tool, and you can, oops, if I click in there like that, I'm actually selecting this text, so I actually need to be down here. Hit escape if you don't want it. A little farther. See what my cursor does? It should actually be pointing horizontally, and then I can start a new layer here. But the way that tool works is it makes the text go down like this. And I don't want to do that. I want to make my text look like this. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create the text vertically first. I'm sorry, horizontally first, and then I'm going to have to transform it. So I'm going to turn it with the transform tool. So I'm going to get rid of this layer here. I'm going to delete this layer. Where is delete layer? And I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to use the horizontal type tool. And it's not going to be quite so big. So we'll make it a little smaller here. Maybe, I don't know, let's try 150 and see what that does. And then I'm going to type underwater. Okay, the text is going way off over here, as you can see. So it's way too big right now. And I also want it white. So I'm going to make it white here. Oh, it didn't turn white because none of it was selected. So let's select it all again, and then let's make it white. Okay, it's still kind of big here, so we're going to make this a lot smaller. And we need to select it all again, so let's double click here and then drag to select. And I think what I want to do is get it about that size, which is, looks like 90. And then I'm just going to have to see if it's the correct size or not. So in order to be able to transform it, I can't transform raster type. I'm sorry, I can't transform regular type, because what regular type is actually, it's a shape. And there are actually, it's made up of paths, and those paths are filled. So if you want to turn it, if you want to change the shape of it, then we have to rasterize it in order to do that. But we want to get it the right size first. Okay, so once I got it about the right size, I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it and see if that helps. So, oops, select from the layer here, and we're going to rasterize the type. We could also convert it to a shape if we wanted to, or create a work path from it. But in this case, we're going to rasterize it. And now we can transform it. And then see how it fits in here. Because this is vector type, I can actually transform this and make it a little wider without losing much quality. So I want it to fit in there more like that. And I could actually make it a little, and play around with the shape somewhat. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And that looks pretty much where I wanted it. And if it wasn't, if it was way off, you might have to go back in your history till you get to where the type was before you rasterized it, and then you can change the size and so on and so forth again. So we go back to free where we finished here, and this is about where we want the type there. So far it's looking good, and I'm going to stop there as this video is getting a little bit long, and then we're going to add the rest of the type over here in the second part of this.